My name's Jackson Rivers. I'm 29 years old, with shoulder-length dirty blonde hair that I usually keep tied back in a messy bun, piercing gray eyes that shift to steel blue when I'm performing, and a face that's all sharp angles, high cheekbones, a pointed chin, and a mouth that naturally curves into what people call a rock star smirk. I'm 5'9", lean and wiry from years of moving equipment and living on energy drinks, with calloused fingertips from guitar strings and small scars on my hands from building stages and fixing amps. There's a Celtic knot tattoo wrapped around my left forearm that I got after our first real gig, and I wear vintage band t-shirts and worn leather jackets because authenticity matters in rock music. I'm a musician and songwriter. Or I was until my bandmates decided they didn't need me anymore and took everything I'd created for them. The story starts 5 years ago in a dingy rehearsal space in Portland, Oregon. I'd been writing songs for years, playing acoustic sets at coffee shops, but dreaming of something bigger, real rock music. The kind that fills arenas and changes people's lives. I had the songs, the vision, and enough saved money to rent practice space, but I needed musicians who could bring my compositions to life. That's when I found Marcus, Danny, and Cole through Craigslist ads and open mic nights. Marcus Chun on bass, quiet, technical, could play anything you put in front of him, but never wrote his own material. Danny Rodriguez on drums, solid rhythm, showed up on time, treated music like a job instead of a passion. Cole Mitchell on lead guitar, flashy player with quick fingers but no understanding of song structure or melody. None of them were songwriters. None of them had vision beyond playing other people's music in cover bands. But they could execute my compositions perfectly, and that's what I needed. I want to call the band Midnight Signal, I told them after our first rehearsal, where we'd run through 5 of my original songs. It represents those moments when you're driving late at night, scanning radio stations, and you catch something that changes everything. Cool name, Marcus said, packing up his bass. These songs are really good, man. Did you write all of them? Yeah, I've got about 20 more at home. Enough for 2 albums if we want to go that route? Over the next year, I poured everything into building Midnight Signal. I wrote all our songs, arranged the harmonies, designed our stage setup, created our image, booked our gigs, managed our social media, and handled all the business side of being a band. The other guys showed up, learned their parts, and played them well. It was exactly what I needed from a backing band. But I made a crucial mistake. I treated them like equal partners instead of hired musicians. We should split everything 4 ways, I announced after our 3rd paid gig. Doesn't matter who wrote what. We're all contributing to make this work. It seemed like the right thing to do at the time. Building camaraderie, sharing success, creating investment in the band's future. Marcus, Danny, and Cole appreciated the gesture, and their performances got tighter as they felt more ownership in our music. The mistake became apparent later, but I was too focused on our growing success to notice the warning signs. By year 2, Midnight Signal was the hottest unsigned band in Portland. We were selling out venues that held 800 people, getting featured in local music publications and attracting interest from record labels. My songs, complex, emotional rock compositions about loss, ambition, and finding meaning in a chaotic world, connected with audiences in ways that surprised even me. Record labels started showing up at our gigs. And our representatives from indie labels, then scouts from major companies. They all said the same thing. Midnight Signal had something special, something that could translate to national success. The offers started coming in early year 3. Sunset Records wants to sign us, I announced to the band after a meeting with their talent acquisition team. 2-album deal, $200,000 advance, plus touring support and promotional budget. We were sitting in our rehearsal space after practice, sharing beers and processing what felt like the culmination of everything we'd worked toward. That's insane, Danny said. We're actually going to be professional musicians. What are the terms? Marcus asked, always practical about business details. Dude, Electric Ghosts is fucking incredible, fans would tell me after shows. That song hits different every time. Electric Ghosts was my masterpiece, a 7-minute epic about dead relationships that refused to die, built around a guitar progression I discovered during a 3 a.m. writing session in my apartment. The song showcased everything Midnight Signal did well: my complex songwriting, Marcus's melodic bass lines, Danny's driving rhythms, and Cole's soaring guitar solos. Standard industry contract. They want to retain publishing rights for radio and streaming, but we keep merchandising and live performance income. The advance gets split 4 ways, and royalties are distributed based on songwriting credits. That's when Cole spoke up. How does songwriting credit work exactly? I looked at him confused. What do you mean? Like, if Jackson writes the lyrics and basic chord progressions, but we all contribute to arranging and developing the songs, how does that get credited? It was a reasonable question, and I should have paid more attention to why he was asking it. Traditionally, the person who writes the core song gets the songwriting credit, I explained. The melody, lyrics, and basic musical structure. Arrangement and performance contributions are separate. But we all contribute ideas during rehearsal, Danny said. Like, my drum patterns definitely influence how these songs feel. And my bass lines add harmonic complexity that isn't in the original acoustic versions, Marcus added. I looked around at my bandmates, realizing this was a conversation I should have initiated years earlier. You guys are right that everyone contributes to how our songs sound in performance, I said carefully. But the core compositions, the melodies, lyrics, chord progressions, those come from my writing sessions. That's traditionally what gets credited for songwriting royalties. Seems like we should discuss this before signing anything, Cole said. We agreed to table the contract discussion until we could research industry standards and maybe consult with an entertainment lawyer. It seemed like responsible business practice at the time. That's when the coup started. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus, Danny, and Cole began having conversations without me. Band meetings that happened at Danny's apartment while I was at my day job. Text message groups that I wasn't included in. Casual hangouts that turned into strategy sessions about our future direction. I didn't realize what was happening until Cole called me with the results of their discussions. Jackson, we need to talk about the songwriting credit situation. What about it? We've been thinking about how collaborative our process really is. Even if you write the initial versions, the songs don't become Midnight Signal songs until we all work on them together. Okay, what are you proposing? We want to split songwriting credits 4 ways on everything. Equal contribution, equal ownership. I sat quietly, processing what Cole was really asking for. 50% of my songwriting royalties redistributed to musicians who had never written a song in their lives. Cole, I write these songs alone in my apartment. You guys learn parts that I teach you. That's not the same as collaborative songwriting. But the versions we perform and record are different from your original acoustic demos. Our contributions transform them into the songs that people actually hear. Arrangement and performance contributions don't traditionally count as songwriting for royalty purposes. Maybe tradition needs to change? We're a band, not Jackson Rivers with backup musicians. The conversation continued for an hour, but the positions were clear. They wanted equal songwriting credits for songs they hadn't written. I wanted recognition for the creative work that had actually built Midnight Signal's reputation. I need to think about this, I said finally. Take your time. But we're not signing any record deal until we resolve the credit situation. That night, I sat in my apartment with my guitar, playing through the songs that had become Midnight Signal setlist. Electric Ghosts, Neon Cathedral, The Weight of Everything. Compositions I'd written during late-night sessions when inspiration struck, and I'd spend hours crafting lyrics and melodies that captured exactly what I was trying to say about life and loss and hope. The idea that Marcus, Danny, and Cole deserved equal songwriting credit for learning to play these songs felt absurd. But without them, I was just a guy with an acoustic guitar and no way to achieve the rock sound that made my compositions powerful. The next morning, I called Sunset Records. I want to move forward with the contract, I told their A&R representative. But there might be some internal band discussions about songwriting credits that we need to resolve first. What kind of discussions? I explained the situation, expecting industry perspective on how these disputes typically get resolved. Jackson, the representative said after I finished, this is a red flag for us. Labels don't want to work with bands that have internal conflicts about creative ownership. It creates too many legal complications. It's just a business discussion. We'll figure it out. Maybe, but if your bandmates are claiming songwriting credit for material they didn't write, that suggests deeper issues with group dynamics and leadership. After I hung up, I realized that Marcus, Danny, and Cole had essentially created a hostage situation. They knew I needed them to maintain Midnight Signal sound, and they were using that leverage to demand ownership of songs they'd never written. But I had leverage too. They just didn't understand it yet. My first move was strategic patience. Instead of fighting about songwriting credits, I agreed to their proposal. You're right, I told them at our next band meeting. Midnight Signal is collaborative, and the credits should reflect that. Let's split everything equally. They seemed surprised by my capitulation, but pleased that we could move forward with the record deal. Great, Cole said. I think this makes us stronger as a creative unit. We signed with Sunset Records 3 weeks later. Equal songwriting credits on all tracks, equal splits of advance money and future royalties. Marcus, Danny, and Cole were thrilled to be professional musicians with guaranteed income from songs they'd helped arrange but never actually written. But the contract had some terms they hadn't paid attention to. Specifically, the clause requiring the band to deliver original material for our second album within 18 months. 12 new songs written and recorded to professional standards, suitable for national radio play and streaming distribution. 6 months after our first album released, featuring my songs with their new collaborative credits, Sunset Records scheduled a meeting to discuss our sophomore effort. We need to start talking about album 2, the label representative said during a conference call with the whole band. The first album is performing well, but we need fresh material to maintain momentum. Absolutely, Cole said. We've been working on new stuff. This was news to me since we hadn't had any writing sessions since signing the record deal. Great, the representative continued. We'll need to hear Demos within the next 2 months. How many songs do you have ready? Silence on the call. Marcus, the representative prompted. Danny, how's the writing process going? More silence. Jackson? The representative said finally. Can you give us an update on new material? All eyes in the room turned to me. Marcus, Danny, and Cole looked expectant, waiting for me to reveal the songs I'd been working on since our first album release. I haven't been writing, I said simply. What do you mean? Cole asked. I mean, I haven't written any new songs since we signed the record deal. Why not? Danny asked. Because songwriting is collaborative now. I figured you guys would contribute equally to creating our new material. The room went quiet as the implications sank in. Marcus, Danny, and Cole had claimed equal songwriting credits for our existing catalog, but they had never actually written songs. They could arrange music and play their instruments perfectly, but they couldn't create the core compositions that made Midnight Signal distinctive. Jackson, the label representative said, we're going to need those demos on schedule regardless of your internal creative process. The contract requires new material delivery. After the call ended, we sat in uncomfortable silence. So what's the plan? Marcus asked finally. You guys are songwriters now, I said. Write some songs. Come on, man, Cole said. You know we're not writers like you are. But you have equal songwriting credits on all our existing material. That suggests equal songwriting ability. That's different. Those songs were already written when we added our parts. Right, so write new songs and I'll add my parts? Another long silence. Jackson, you know we need you to write the songs, Danny said. That's what you're good at. We're good at playing them. Then maybe the songwriting credits should reflect who actually writes the songs. We stared at each other across the rehearsal room, the power dynamic finally clear to everyone involved. What are you proposing? Marcus asked. I write the songs, I get the songwriting credits. You guys play the songs, you get performance credits and equal splits of everything else. Same as it was before you decided to claim ownership of my creative work. And if we don't agree? Cole asked. Then you write the second album yourselves. They couldn't, and we all knew it. Over the next week, Marcus, Danny, and Cole tried everything they could think of to resolve the situation without giving up their claimed songwriting credits. They suggested hiring outside writers, collaborating with other bands, even delaying the second album release. But Sunset Records had a contract, and the contract required original Midnight Signal material delivered on schedule. Finally, Cole called me with their decision. "We'll go back to the original arrangement," he said. "You write the songs, we play them, but we want higher percentages on touring income and merchandise." "That's fine," I said. I was always happy to share performance revenue equally, but I wasn't done. The second album, Signal Lost, was released 8 months later. 12 songs I'd written in a creative burst after our contract dispute, darker and more complex than our first album. The music reflected everything I'd learned about trust, creativity, and the difference between contribution and ownership. The album debuted at number 15 on the Billboard rock charts, higher than our first release, with stronger critical reviews and more radio play. Rolling Stone called it a mature evolution from a band that understands the power of authentic songwriting. During the promotional tour, interviewers always asked about our creative process. Jackson writes the core songs, I would explain in interviews while Marcus, Danny, and Cole sat beside me. He brings them to the band and we arrange them collaboratively. But the songwriting, the melodies, lyrics, and musical foundations, that's Jackson's contribution? How does that affect the band dynamic? Reporters would ask. It clarifies roles, I'd say. Everyone contributes what they're best at. Jackson creates, we execute. The distinction became clear to our audience as well. Fan forums started referring to Midnight Signal as Jackson Rivers' band, recognizing that our distinctive sound came from my songwriting rather than collective composition. 6 months after Signal Lost released, Marcus, Danny, and Cole asked for another band meeting. "We want to discuss creative direction for Album 3, Cole said. "What about it?" "We think the band should explore more collaborative writing approaches," I almost laughed. "You mean you want songwriting credits again?" "We think our contributions deserve recognition. Your contributions do get recognition. You're credited as performers on every song. You get equal splits of touring and merchandise revenue, and you're identified as full band members in all our promotional materials. But not as writers, because you don't write." We sat in the rehearsal space where we'd started 5 years earlier, surrounded by the equipment I'd bought and the songs I'd written that had made all of us successful. "Here's the thing," I said finally. "You guys are talented musicians. You play my songs better than I ever could alone, but you're not writers, and claiming credit for writing doesn't make you writers." "So what happens now?" Danny asked. "Now you decide whether you want to be professional musicians in a successful band, or whether you want to be songwriters in a band that doesn't have any songs." They chose to be professional musicians. Midnight Signal continued for 2 more albums before I decided to go solo. By then, Marcus, Danny, and Cole understood their roles clearly, skilled performers interpreting someone else's creative vision. They played beautifully, toured professionally, and never again claimed credit for work they didn't do. When I announced my departure to pursue a solo career, they wished me well and started looking for another songwriter who needed a backing band. I still see them occasionally at Portland venues, playing behind other singer-songwriters, doing what they do best, making other people's music sound better. As for me, I perform under my own name now, Jackson Rivers, singer-songwriter. No confusion about who writes the songs or who deserves credit for the creative work. Sometimes I'll play Electric Ghosts during solo acoustic sets, stripped down to just guitar and vocals. The song works perfectly that way, the way I originally wrote it, before arrangement and production and band dynamics complicated what was always a simple, honest composition about things that refused to die. The audience sings along, and I know they understand exactly who wrote the song they're hearing. That recognition feels better than any platinum album or sold-out arena show. Some things you just can't share, no matter how much you want to be generous.